I spent 70% of my 20s in Kazakhstan, and here's what I learned. I came to Kazakhstan to work when I was 23, and I recently turned 30. So it's been almost 70% of my 20s have been spent in Kazakhstan, and now I'm entering my 30s in Kazakhstan. For the record, if you're new, I'm from the US and I came to Kazakhstan to work, and I've been working in the same place for 7 years, almost 7 years. My first and second year, I made videos where I kind of like reflected on what I learned, I guess, or like things I noticed. And at the end of this video, I'm gonna talk a little bit about my 30th birthday, which I spent a lot of money on, very Kazakh style. Not very Kazakh style the way I did it, but spending a lot of money for your birthday, very Kazakh style. First, I'll go into what you probably want to hear, which is about things I've noticed changing in Kazakhstan. One of the most notable things is that there's been a little bit of a change in tourism in Kazakhstan. A lot of the natural sites in the south, in the Almaty region, have seen development. The biggest one I can think of is Sharen Canyon. So when I first went there, I think my first year, there was like no road out there. It was just a bumpy, sandy stretch. And now there's a paved road. There's a visitor center. There's a little restaurant slash cafe in there. And I think you can even glamp in the area, and none of that was there 6.5 years ago. So that's a major development. And additionally, at Kolsai, Lake Kolsai, when I went there, there used to be no like buildings or anything. Before you get to Kolsai, there's a bunch of places to eat, like little cafes to eat at, and like one fancy cafe to eat at. However, there are some things that still remain, like very expensive tourism for foreigners. So if you speak Russian, you can find a lot of cheaper group tours to things. But if you don't, you'll probably get an individual tour guide, and those ones, especially if they speak English or French, I found out, they like to make you spend a lot of money. We're talking like $400 a day per person. Budget tourism is still not widely available in Kazakhstan. I also live in Astana, so I wanted to talk about the changes in Astana. So of course, Astana, the capital, has been growing. Like I used to live on the edge kind of Astana, and now it's way less the edge. There's like buildings around. Even out my window right now, I see 4 cranes. So that's just to show what development is going on here. Like things are really changing rapidly. And I want to mention that still public transportation is nice, you know, like the bus system is still fine. Taxis are getting more expensive, and still the light rail, or above ground metro in Astana, is still not built. And they had been working on it since before I came to Kazakhstan. You can look up yourself the reasons why it hasn't been finished yet, but they're getting closer. There's actually one finished, almost finished metro station that I've seen, so maybe. And I would also like to mention one thing that's kind of like closer to my heart, which is the use of Kazakh language. And here in Astana, I live in Astana, so I can really only say the changes that I've seen here about language use. But more people are using Kazakh in Astana, and I think this is a good thing. I'm not saying that it's bad that people speak Russian. It's just good that the native language of Kazakh people is being used more. And actually, I don't really have a difficulty most of the time finding someone in a restaurant or a store that speaks Kazakh. And when I first came to Astana, this was more of an issue. But I'm not really sure this is a language change within people themselves, but more so that more people from smaller cities that spoke majorly Kazakh are moving to Astana. So there's just more Kazakh speakers in the city now. But that's also not proven by anything. I've just heard that as a theory, so I kind of agree with that theory. So I'm happy that more people are speaking Kazakh in Astana. If only that were the case in Almaty. I'm looking straight at you, Almaty. I also want to talk about, in general, the things that I've kind of learned as a foreigner coming to Kazakhstan, being here for almost 7 years, the things I've learned more about. And they might not necessarily be Kazakh, but I've learned them while I'm here. It's kind of things that have helped me grow. I've actually learned a lot about Islam by coming to Kazakhstan, and I've learned about the nuances of Islam and the range of believers, right? In any place, you can have people who are very devout or people who are, we could say, ethnically a religion. For example, people who are born Kazakh and so therefore born Muslim. Another like subgroup that I've learned about is post-Soviet or Soviet/Russian culture. It's still very, very prominent in Kazakhstan. Post-Soviet countries in general, I think, have a lot of the Soviet influence. Still, Russian is the major language spoken here, and that hasn't changed. I've also learned about Central Asian culture and Turkic culture because originally, Kazakh is a Turkic language, and so there's a general Turkic kind of culture, a Central Asian culture, and one thing that I always kind of struggle with is understanding the concept of hospitality or konakjayluk, because they don't match the two words, English and Kazakh. They don't match. Hospitality in, I think the US mindset is being hospitable all the time, especially in like server settings, where you're like working at a store or at a restaurant where you're providing a service. But this isn't necessarily the case in Kazakhstan. Konakjayluk literally has the word konak, which means guest. So you mostly see in Kazakhstan konakjayluk when you're invited to somebody's house. You will not see konakjayluk at the bus stop, sometimes not in a restaurant, because I think the mindset is that those people are not your guests. But I think in the US mindset, this is a little bit different. Like someone you don't know, you can be hospitable to them, even if it's just a stranger on the street, or even if it's you're a server at a restaurant. And this isn't necessarily the case. So I've learned, finally, literally a few months ago, like maybe last month, I realized like konakjayluk has konak, guest, the word guest in it, and therefore it probably just applies to when you have a guest. And I was like, oh! There's some particular facets of being a guest at somebody's house that are very cultural in Kazakhstan. For example, in more historic Kazakh culture, if you like something at somebody's house and you said, oh my gosh, that figurine is so beautiful, they might give it to you. And actually this has happened to me where I wasn't a guest at somebody's house, but I said to a friend like, oh my gosh, your earrings are so nice. And she just gave them to me. So sometimes that happens. But I would say guest culture in Kazakhstan is very similar to a lot of older cultures. I know Kazakhs don't want to hear that, and it's not an insult. I'm not saying that you guys are not hospitable when you have a guest, but I think people in Kazakhstan have this idea that they're very hospitable to guests. But I've seen similar things in Korea. I've seen similar things in Hawaii, in the US. I've also seen in the south of the US, this is very common to be very hospitable to guests in a similar way. So yes, Kazakhs are hospitable, and some parts of their culture are like very particular to them, but also they're hospitable in the way that many cultures are. Another thing that is actually everywhere, but I want to mention here, is that there's a big disparity between wealth. Some people are very wealthy, but the majority are not. I don't know how the regular person actually makes it month to month in Kazakhstan, because the amount they get paid and the prices of restaurants, cafes, taxi, transport, clothes is very different. The price is expensive. I think Kazakhs are very resilient because they're making it through like not having a lot of money, but living life the best they can.
12 seconds later.
And let's turn to me. Let's talk about me a little bit. How have I changed? So first things first is my appearance. I think this is the easiest thing to identify. Before living in Kazakhstan, I lived in the state Hawaii. It's very hot there, very warm. I wore very, very casual clothes. In the US, many people don't dress up. They just wear casually all the time. And in Kazakhstan, it's not the case. If there's an event, people dress up. I also didn't wear a lot of makeup, and I still don't wear a lot of makeup, but I do wear makeup now. So there's a difference there. And like, I've gotten my makeup professionally done here several times, and I would never do that in the US, mostly because it's too expensive. But like, there's usually not the need to do that. Like, everybody just does their own makeup. I also, of course, dress a little bit more conservatively than I would in the US, just because I'm conscious of the stares and sometimes the comments that people make in Kazakhstan if I dress differently. For example, one time I was in Kozlorda wearing shorts and an old lady tissed at me like and said something under her breath about me. It was definitely about me. I'm not saying that I dress very conservatively. That's not the case, no, but it has had an influence on me and I feel the pull to dress normally, I guess. People here, a lot of them dress similarly to one another. It's common for people to follow the same style. It's like a particular style. I can't really describe it, but I try not to get sucked into that. I try not to wear all black all the time during winter, which is what a lot of people do here. The next one is something that you can feel in a lot of collectivist cultures, but I feel pressure to assimilate and go with the status quo, I guess, more. And I feel like people are giving their judgment more here in Kazakhstan. Older people are more likely to tell you what they think and their opinion and how you should change. Compared to the US, it's hard kind of to fight the pressure of like beauty standards or how men and women should act, what you should do with your life, like should you get married, when you should get married, when you should have kids, how many kids you should have, how you should be living your life, what hobbies you should even have. These type of things you can feel more pressure about to follow what people think is correct. So I like actively have to think about these things, like why do they want you to get married at a certain time, and what are my actual core values? And speaking about values, none of my personal values have really changed. Actually, in fact, they've probably been strengthened by opposition here. For example, I'm still a feminist and I feel more strongly about it because of all the anti-feminists here. Not that there aren't anti-feminists in the US, of course there are. And finally, I want to talk about my 30th birthday event. So I decided to kind of lean into the grandeur of sometimes celebrating things in Kazakhstan. Celebrations are always big. It's a party. I decided to rent out a bar, pay for people's drinks to a certain amount, and I ordered plov and azachuk and baursak, and I made a dessert and I asked my friend to make a dessert. I asked a few of my friends in the American way to kind of bring something as a potluck. This is very American to like ask people to bring food. I actually have been planning for this birthday since July because I found a really fun theme, which was death to my 20s. So kind of a funeral theme to acknowledge that my 20s had ended and that my 30s were beginning. I thought it would be cool to have like little gifts for my party. So 2 months ago, I actually started picking flowers because at the end of September, that was the only time that there was gonna be flowers left. I pressed them all, but I thought it would be cool to give everybody magnets of pressed flowers. This was the most abundant type of flower, and they've come out so wonky. Look, that doesn't even look like a flower. But also, I was thinking of giving some tea. When I was just in Kozlorda, I was very close to a bazaar, and I thought, great, I can buy tea in bulk. So I bought 3 tea types, lemon ginger, 1001 nights. Plus I have this other one, like a fruity one, and I thought I'm gonna give them in little pouches, like a little bit for everybody. One done. So it's Thursday night. First of all, I packed up all of the tea in these little bottles. Also, I made these magnets. When you're a kid in the US and you go to somebody's birthday, they give you a goodie bag. So this is kind of like fun.
2 days later.
It's the day of the party! So I woke up earlier than I wanted to get my hair done. And then I went to get my makeup done by Astana Almjon, who I usually get my makeup done by. And I love it! And with my little outfit, I want to look like a little angel. Sultanat and her boyfriend are gonna help me decorate and move things and put things up, blah, blah, blah. So we'll get there an hour early. So I asked everyone to wear black and I wore white and black. Ooh, because I'm the birthday kid. Cal turns 30. How are you feeling tonight? I feel good. Hopefully people are having fun. I think this is a little bit different than Kazakh-style birthdays because everyone just is chilling. There's no MC or tamada to do any of the work. It's just like people talking, which is, I guess, an American style. Someone told me this. I wouldn't know myself. And we have a ton of plov left, so I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. I also asked people in the invitation if they would make a eulogy for me, or a eulogy of their 20s, or a eulogy of their memories together. And this is basically a speech. People in Kazakhstan give speeches a lot for birthdays, so I thought this would be a fun way to incorporate it. In the US, you don't give speeches for people's birthdays.
To Rocky's 30th birthday, most importantly, she was a good daughter, great to her parents, great sister, and a true friend. Caring, loving, honest, and supportive.
And I appreciate that we are good friends, and a good friend without interest, like oh, she's can help me something in that, but I feel no, just talk, and a good friend.
She's the most energetic, smartest, and generous person in every room that we go to.
You're really beautiful, you're really energetic. I really appreciate that we are working together.
You are the most competitive person that I know in the best way possible. I think everyone would recognize that, but that's also something that motivates me to push forward and to try to challenge myself.
All in all, smart, kind, vulnerable, honest, authentic, revolutionary, as someone said yesterday.
Congratulations. Thank you everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. Without you guys, I would be very lonely and sad, and everyone here, I chose to be here because you all have impacted me a lot, and I really thank you for your support. Coming to a new country and being far away is not always easy, but all of you make it very easy to be in Kazakhstan. And
Because you are really good, that's why.
thank you, and I really care about all of you very much, and I'm very, very thankful that everybody's here. And even if I sometimes say things that don't sound so nice, I mean to be nice. This is mostly for work people. The Machado people usually.
No, sometimes for Machado people.
Yeah, but I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy the night.
Oh, yeah.
And I hope that you're in my life into my 30s too. Thank you.
And there was also drama, and that's also why I was crying.
Oh, I'm not in the mood right now. Feeling better now? No.
I don't want to get into it too much because I don't want to like really slander the place. Basically, I asked for the rental to be for 4 hours, and I confirmed this several times. And then they made it 3 and started making the bar public, and they were expecting me to pay the full price. Eventually, there was like something negotiated, but it wasn't in my favor, and it wasn't like I didn't win in the end, and actually it caused me a lot of stress. And I want to thank Sultanat and her boyfriend, and also Dauren, for kind of helping me in this situation. Honestly, that really, like, my birthday was perfect. Besides that last paid hour, because I was just like trying to deal with the situation. It wasn't fun for me in that part. So yeah, you win some, you lose some. And I really can't believe that I've been in Kazakhstan for almost 7 years. Like, time has really flown by. It's still surreal sometimes that I'm in this currently winter wonderland. It's comfortable now living here. I've been here for 7 years. Hopefully it's comfortable now. And thank you to the very few people who have maybe been watching since I came to Kazakhstan. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Happy birthday!